Thank you very much. Thank you all for being here on what I understand was short notice. Our Executive Vice President and General Counsel, David Zimmerman, Deputy Commissioner Bill Daly, and I have been here today. We've had a variety of meetings, and I felt at this point it would be both important and only fair to tell you what our understanding of the state of things is and where we think we are. But for one thing, we'd be done. There is a deal structure for Matt Hulsizer to buy the Coyotes from the league. There are arrangements in place approved by the City of Glendale that would enable the Coyotes to live happily ever after in jobbing.com arena, and that would ensure that the arena doesn't go dark, and it would protect the future for the people who have businesses and jobs at Westgate. In that regard, I want to thank the City of Glendale and commend the City of Glendale, starting with Mayor Scruggs and including the City Council, City Manager Ed Beasley, and the staff of the City of Glendale. I personally know how hard and how committed everyone has worked and is in pursuit of what they and I believe is a just, rational, sensible, and reasonable result. I also want to thank Matt Hulsizer for taking on the task of an incredibly difficult and complex transaction. He has devoted himself and his resources to this endeavor. I would be terribly remiss if I did not thank the Coyotes players, management, and staff for conducting themselves with the consummate professionalism during an extraordinarily difficult and uncertain time. And I finally want to thank the Coyotes fans for both their tenaciousness and their support. And I know there are a lot more of them than this club gets credit for. So what is the one thing and what is the problem? And that is the bonds. They need to be sold, but at this point they have not been. And so the question is, why haven't they been sold, despite the fact that they've been given an A1 rating, which is a good and marketable rating? The only issue with an A1 rating should have been what the interest rate is, 4.5%, 5%, 6%, and that should have seen the bonds gobbled up. So you have to ask yourself, what is the problem? And in short, the Goldwater Institute has placed a cloud on the bonds. They have threatened to challenge the legality of the Hulsizer Glendale transactions and the bonds themselves. And based on what we have been told by the bond underwriters, the market for these bonds, solely because of the Goldwater threat, has been impacted. Now, I'm not intimately familiar with the Goldwater Institute, but it has become extremely clear to me that the Goldwater Institute can be very obstructionist. In light of their conduct in this matter, I question whether this is really an organization that is concerned with the public interest, despite a mission statement that calls for expanding free enterprise and support for the public interest. I quite frankly don't know who the people there report to or are accountable to, but it fascinates me that whoever is running the Goldwater Institute can actually substitute their judgment for that of the Glendale City Council by, in effect, overturning a duly enacted resolution of the city and one that was enacted in public session. The Glendale City Council decided to save jobbing.com arena, to save Westgate, to save businesses and jobs, and perhaps even save the city by entering into a transaction that keeps this building alive. The city is on the hook one way or the other, so it was not irrational for the council to make this determination. Goldwater obviously has another view, and whether you think it's motivated because they think they've been insulted by the city, their latest media release this weekend alluded to that again, or whether they just think they know better. But that really isn't the issue. Without actually filing a lawsuit, Goldwater is managing to have its way simply by threatening. I'm not sure that they even think they have a good lawsuit. We are told that 2 independent law firms looked at this and said the transaction is legal under Arizona law. Interestingly, again, I find it curious as to how the Goldwater Institute does business. I requested a meeting with Darcy Olson and was told no, but I could have a joint news conference. This situation is far too serious for such game playing. Again, I hope that those to whom those at the Goldwater Institute are accountable are paying attention. Nevertheless, my hope is that somehow Goldwater and Glendale can find a way to get this done promptly. So where does this leave us? We're not yet done, we haven't given up, and we're not giving up. For anyone suggesting that we're not still committed to Glendale, you have not been following what we have done for the past 2 years, and our commitment remains as strong as ever. But time is running out, and we're getting close to the end. I will not today say when the end is, and I will not today set a deadline, but at some point we may have no choice but to begin pursuing our other alternatives. Most simply stated, this situation must be resolved. I'm happy to take questions. Or not.
What do you think the resolution will be with Goldwater? How do you create a situation where the two sides come together?
I am told by everybody I've spoken to in the last 72 hours that there have been numerous meetings over the last few months, that there have been thousands of pages of documents produced answering all their questions, and frankly, I think it's time for Goldwater to stand down because, based on everything we're hearing, this seems to be a leverage play more than anything else. The other plan is to continue to pursue the sale of the bonds, which I think could get very expensive, and the result of that will be, if Goldwater actually believes it is to be helping taxpayers, driving up the cost of doing business isn't helping taxpayers, it's only going to cost taxpayers in the city more money. So I'm hoping that everybody can reason together and get this behind them.
Are you guys looking at tweaking the deal at all, changing the amount of the bonds,
It's not
asking price, how much Hulsizer is putting in?
That's not for us. That's between Mr. Hulsizer and the city. And my understanding, based on some media report I saw today, is they were not focused on changing the terms of the deal.
You view it as an insult almost that the Institute refuses to meet with the NHL one-on-one?
I don't get insulted easily, but I do think it's just indicative of the way they do business to suggest, instead of a meeting, a joint press conference is game playing at best, and I don't even know what at worst. I mean, I'm not sure how an organization functions and gets away with it doing things like that.
Gary, if you believe in the deal and you understand it to be legal, why not meet with them in any forum?
I'm sorry?
If you believe in the deal, if you believe it's legal, why not meet with them in any forum?
I was looking to get a sensible business meeting report. The Glendale City Council met in open session. Last time I checked last week, the Goldwater Institute didn't hold its board meeting in public session. I mean, if they're serious about doing business, there are ways to do it. And if you're looking to play games or create media events, I'm not buying into that.
You say you think they're trying to get some kind of leverage? Leverage to do what?
Tough it out. If I set a deadline, then they just try and tough it out until they can kill the transaction. See, I'm not sure that they even think that they have a bona fide lawsuit. But the longer they can perpetuate this and cloud the bond market, the more likely that for whatever motivation they have, that they get their way without having to test it in court.
Their director has said their main question revolves around who owns the land.
I am told by the lawyers that looked at it that there is no question to that at all, and that the documentation is clear.
So
that I am told that that's a smokescreen.
do you believe Goldwater has the documentation showing that in their hands right now?
I am told that their questions were answered.
On that part?
I'm not. Remember, I haven't dealt with Goldwater. They don't talk to me.
In terms of the deadline, are we talking about weeks? Could it go into
I'm not going to set a deadline. I'm not going to encourage anybody to try and tough it out to the deadline. But there will come a point in time where we can't hold on any longer. And that's obvious when you look at the things we have to do to get ready for next season.
Gary, as you're well aware, people in Winnipeg are following the story
Yeah.
closely. Does the league have options beyond Winnipeg?
We have options, but I'm not going to discuss what those options are, because the options that we're going to continue to pursue right now are here. We are obviously aware of the interest in Winnipeg. We are greatly appreciative of that interest, but I don't want to say or do anything that raises expectations. I don't think that's fair.
Gary, if you don't think the Goldwater Institute's motivation, stated motivation, is legitimate, what do you think is motivating?
I don't know. I haven't been able to talk to them, but I'm looking at this from 2,000 miles. I'm getting reports from underwriters, from the city, from the prospective purchaser, and at the end of the day, there's one thing that's stopping this transaction from going forward, and that has impeded it. I don't know why they sent the letters to the bond rating agencies. I don't know why they sent letters to prospective investors trying to chill the marketplace. And there doesn't seem to be any level of accountability here. And if, in fact, we get to the point where we would have to pack things up and leave, and it was happening without even a lawsuit, then whether or not they actually had the goods to support what they were saying, we'll never know.